Hey, and welcome. You ever look back and think about what or who you were into 10 years ago and just kind of scratch your head? It's something most of us go through. So today, we're going to break down the actual science behind how and why our attractions evolve over time.
It's a super fascinating and really personal question, isn't it? One we've all probably asked ourselves at some point. It can feel, confusing, maybe even a little bit random, but what if it's not random at all? What if it's actually a sign that something much deeper is happening inside you? For the longest time, the popular myth was that attraction is just static, something you're born with, that's set in stone, kind of like your eye color. But the reality, it's way more dynamic than that. Attraction isn't some fixed point, it's a living, breathing part of who you are. The simple truth is this: attraction evolves because you evolve.
So, to really get to the bottom of this, here's our game plan. First, we're going to firmly establish that attraction isn't fixed. Then we'll dive into your amazing rewiring brain, talk about the psychology of it all, check out the body's influence, and even see how we literally learn attraction. Then we'll wrap it all up. Okay, so first things first, let's really lock in this foundational idea. Your sexual preferences are not set in stone. Far from it. They're actually being shaped by, the entire landscape of your life, your brain, your experiences, and all your changing circumstances.
So if attraction can change, the big question is how? How does that actually happen? Well, the answer starts right inside your head, with the incredible science of your constantly rewiring brain.
The key word here is neuroplasticity. Now, it sounds like a really complicated sci-fi term, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's just your brain's amazing built-in ability to constantly reorganize itself. It's not a static organ. It's this living, adapting network that's always forming new connections based on literally everything you do and feel and experience.
Seriously, think of your brain as this incredibly sophisticated learning machine. And just like any good piece of tech, it's constantly updating its own software. Its preferences, what it finds rewarding or attractive, are always being tweaked and refined as it gathers new data from your life. And check this out. This is how it actually works. First, you have a new experience. Maybe you form this really deep emotional bond with someone who's totally different from your usual type. So what happens? Well, your brain literally rewires itself. It forges new pathways that start associating that person's qualities with good things, like pleasure and safety. And boom, just like that, your internal template for what you find attractive starts to shift.
But it's not just the brain's hardware that's changing. The software, your psychology, your values, your whole sense of self, that's constantly being updated too. So let's look at the psychological why behind all this. I mean, this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? That kind of wild, unpredictable excitement that might have been everything to you as a teenager can feel, completely different, even shallow when you're older. Your definition of what's truly desirable changes because you've changed.
And that's because your priorities shift. As you go through life, you might start to find that things like emotional safety, a real intellectual connection, or shared values become way more compelling. What you look for in a partner starts to be a reflection of what you value in yourself.
So you see, attraction isn't just some simple surface-level reaction. It's deeply woven into the most complex parts of us. Our memories, the meaning we search for in our relationships, and our very sense of who we are. As those things change, so does the pattern of our attraction. Of course, we can't talk about the mind without talking about the body. Beyond all the brain wiring and psychological growth, there are these powerful biological currents at play that can absolutely influence who and what we desire. Yeah, our internal chemistry has a huge say in this. Changes in hormones like testosterone and estrogen can directly affect our sex drive and what we find arousing. But it's not just the obvious ones. Even things like chronic stress, which floods your body with cortisol, or something as simple as not getting enough sleep, all of that can subtly change what feels good on a really fundamental biological level.
Okay, so we've looked inside, at the brain, the mind, and the body. But what about the outside world? Our experiences aren't just things that happen to us. They are actively teaching our brains what to find attractive.
This is a really big one to remember. Exposure shapes preference. Your brain doesn't just invent its ideas about what's attractive in a vacuum. It's constantly being fed new data, new blueprints for what attractive even means from the world and the people you see every single day. So where does it get all these new templates? Literally everywhere. From the characters you watch in movies, from the cultural norms you grow up in, from your partners who show you new ways to be loved, and yep, even from your own private fantasies. All of this info is constantly updating your personal map of desire. All right, let's pull all of these different threads together. We've seen how our brains rewire themselves, how our minds mature, how our bodies change, and how our experiences are constantly teaching us. So, what does it all add up to?
Here's the key takeaway. When your preferences shift, it isn't some random glitch in the system. It's not a bug. It's a logical, natural, and honestly, a pretty beautiful process. It's the sign of a brain that's alive and working. A brain that's adapting, learning, and most importantly, reflecting the person you are right now and the person you're becoming. And that really is the bottom line. It's the simplest, most profound explanation there is. It's not something to be confused by, but something to see as a fundamental part of your own growth. So the next time you think about how much your tastes have changed, maybe the real question isn't, why did my attraction change? But instead, how have I grown?